Yeah, you're right, Luvs. Crudi Dench here. I once mistook a hamster for a large chicken nugget. And welcome to another episode of Yorkshire Tea. Oh, that's pipe not that is. So today I'll be recapping and reviewing episode 2 of RuPaul's Drag Race UK Series 1. What did I think of it? Let's just talk about it, shall we? The queens enter the workroom after the first elimination, and Cheryl declares Gothy Ken doll as a national icon. It might just be because it's episode 2, but there are no snidey comments, everything's pretty polite. Vinegar wipes away the message. There's no bye bitch or fuck you sis. It's just, oh goodbye, somebody had to make it through, didn't they? And so the queens sit around one of the workroom tables. Vinegar looks like she's come out of a Boxing Day sale at Hobbycraft. And we get our first seeds of a reality TV storyline with Cheryl v. The Vivienne. Although, judging on the content that we've got here, the producers are really pulling at bra strings to get a storyline out of this. Just a couple of comments and reverse shots means that we've got some kind of drama brewing now. It's a new day in the workroom. The Vivienne shows off her her badge. A little shade is thrown here and there, but the camaraderie seems high. The familiar klaxon is heard. And we get our RuMail clues for this week's main challenge.
Ooh, Maddie.
Madeleine McCann? Thankfully, or somewhat thankfully, this turns out to be the acting challenge, which is a parody of the global period drama sensation Downton Abbey. Oh, but it's Downton Draggy. Oh, I see what they did there. But before that, we have a micro mini challenge, and it really is micro. In an attempt to stir up some drama with no subtlety at all, the Vivienne is asked to rank her fellow queens from top to bottom, or as RuPaul puts it, stereotypically large penis to stereotypically small penis. Side note, has anybody noticed that the British pit crew aren't packing as much as the Americans? Maybe they've got less socks, maybe they've got less to prove. The Vivienne lines them up in an order which sort of becomes the theme for the episode, with the older, more established queens at the top and the younger queens at the bottom. We get a build-up of the Vivienne-Cheryl drama here, and after a few forced gags, this whole painful process is done. Now, I know this mini micro challenge was put in deliberately to create drama between the contestants, but I can't help but think there could have been a more creative way of doing this than literally lining them up from what one of them thinks is the best to the worst. For example, the picking of the teams naturally creates this drama anyway, without having to spell it out. RuPaul then explains a little bit more about the Maxi challenge, and I've got to say I did howl at the descriptions of the differences between each script.
A scandalous tale of intrigue and willpower. Second, a scandalous tale of willpower and intrigue.
The Vivienne and Scaredy Cat are team leaders, pretty much splitting them off into young v old, experience v lack of experience, minus one or two anomalies. There's also a bit of language barrier banter.
Wait, just to get things straight, what is a tuppence?
A tuppence is an old 2p.
No,
But we call
also
it a tuppence is your vagina.
Yeah. I didn't understand any of that. But
I do think this is put in for American audiences to help them understand the different lingo. It's done in quite a fun way without just saying, minge, it's minge, it means minge. The teams are then split off into Team DFS and Team IKEA chairs, and they get on with some rehearsing. They're not actually rehearsing here, they're just split off to slag each other off for a bit. Just if you don't get that, that's what they're doing. Right, Lou? There is some decent story building here. We have Cheryl Hole saying that she's been doing shows since she was about 6. Booked and blessed. Booked and blessed. RuPaul, hello governors, is way into the room, sizing up the weak links in the group, zeroing in on Sum and Blue in particular. There's a little build-up of tension here, but nothing too dramatic. The team then move on to the set of Downton Draggy and Great Lily Savage's Ghost! Team Vivian is up first. Apart from the bits with Bagger here misinterpreting her lines, this whole part of the episode just seems to drag. There seems to be a focus on this segment with both teams of pointing out when queens are getting things wrong. There's very little praise for queens who do well, and it just really brings down the energy of the whole episode. There's not many highlights with the other team. Scaredy Cat is a whiny bitch. And Davina looks like a troll doll grew up and got a mortgage. We move on to Elimination Day, and the pacing of the editing seems super quick here. Bam, they're in the workroom. Bam, there's a heart-to-heart. Bam, they're getting ready. Have you got enough foundation on that sponge there, love? I think this is so they can quickly lead up to the Vivian and Cheryl drama again, with the Vivian producing one of my favourite sayings of all time.
Wind your neck, right in.
There's a nice segment between Scaredy, Sum and Vinegar about race and sexuality and coming out. Although again, this is where we can see the differences between the American show and the British show. The American show, it's all drama and crying and oh, this is the worst. And in the British show, it's, oh, do you mind? I'm trying to do my makeup. I want to get on, please, thanks. Thank you. Hello, thanks. On the main stage this week, our judges are Stupid American.
Mark? Who's Mark?
Irish Drunk.
Sets. They're boxes of wine, but I binge.
And Little Girl. I much preferred RuPaul's look this week. Great wig, great dress, fantastic, in keeping with the runway theme that week of Bond Girl. This is a fantastic theme for a runway. It's unfortunate to see that most of the queens didn't quite hit the brief.
I misunderstood the assignment. I'm sorry.
For example, I loved both Davina and Blue's looks this week, but they speak sort of more super villain, superhero than Bond Girl. And we also have Liza Minnelli. Why is Liza Minnelli there? Why is she there? What? I don't like it! We then get to see both teams' efforts in the actual challenge, and initially watching it, I was very underwhelmed. But watching it a second time over, there were some funny moments in there. Highlights came from the gags, such as
Presenting Lord Willingbottom.
Damn!
Lord Willingbottom, we're having egg soup this evening. Can you guess how I like my eggs? Fertilized.
oh, he's awfully tall, isn't he? Oh. But overall, it was let down by an over-reliance on RuPaul's Drag Race references and slapstick humour, which just didn't land, which is a critique I've got of other acting challenges in RuPaul's Drag Race seasons. A lot of this is down to how it is made. The RuPaul's Drag Race US series has story producers and challenge producers. Now, these challenge producers work on the content for the actual challenges, the maxi and the mini challenges. The story producers work on the overarching story told by the characters, the drag queens themselves, throughout the episode and throughout the season. And normally you can blame the challenge producers for the content of the acting challenges because they don't have writers. That's why it's so bad. So I was surprised to see that on the UK series, when I was scrolling through the credits, there is actually a writer who worked on both of those scripts, who is done some fairly prominent work with other classic UK comedy shows here. Why was it still so crap then? Going on to the winners, Bagger Chips won with her Chuckle Vision style of acting pulling through. And so Team Vivian is safe and judging commences on the others. One interesting critique that I pulled out was that Scaredy Cat's performance, Michelle said, was all one note. Which is quite funny because there was another performance that was quite one note as well. Davina gets quite emotional despite doing quite well, and Blue does not get emotional despite doing not as well. In the workroom, Cheryl gets confronted about her acting up, and it doesn't really get much of a reaction, which I think shows how little a problem it really is. Of course, a drag queen is going to act up a little bit on RuPaul's Drag Race. It is a global platform. It's essentially a marketing tool for drag queens. They're going to come on with catchphrases and sayings.
Who put 50p in cheddar?
And let's be cynical here. If you want to be remembered, then you're going to have to speak up. It's not like we have a Silky Nutmeg Ganache situation here. This story is so weak that it has to be backed up with a confessional where Cheryl cries her eyes out just to make it have some kind of impact. On the other hand, it does lead us to Davina giving us a cracking impression of an Aardman animation. Moving back on stage, Blue and Scaredy are in the bottom and have to lip sync to Feed Us! Another cracking tune. Well done. Oh, well done. Blue is clearly the better lip syncer in this lip sync showdown. Scaredy is living up to her name. She's very confused on stage. She doesn't know quite what to do. Whereas Blue is hitting marks, she's including gags. She's just having a great time up there. There is also some hilarious school disco dancing in the background. Blue is safe and Scaredy leaves. Scaredy leaves with what I've got to give to her credit is a killer line.
It wasn't a bad first gig.
And looking at the exits, we have some similarities here too. And so episode 2 is over, and even though it's not as bad as other episode 2s in other American seasons, it's still not great. There's a strange tonal shift caused by the editing throughout the episode, trying to manufacture drama that just isn't there. The Cheryl v Vivian storyline seems quite weak still, and the young queens forcibly being in the bottom sometimes versus the experienced queens overarching storyline that we're getting so far both in episode 1 and episode 2 seems at sometimes a little unjustified. Ta very much for watching this week's episode of Yorkshire Tea. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to catch up with more of my shenanigans, you can follow me online at Crudi Dench, and you can follow the whole family and all of our events at House of Dench as well. Make sure to ring my bell end up there to make sure that you are subscribed and get these videos in your feed and your emails every single week. Other than that, I'll see you next week, loves. Bye bye. Bye bye now. Much better. Much better. Hopefully next week is much better. Much better.